Hey everyone, it's Brandy and welcome back to my channel, Brandy Janae's Bookshelf. Today, as you can tell from the title of this video, I will be doing my August TBR. So I had planned on filming this a little bit earlier, but for some reason, the landscaping people were here today. It's Monday. They normally come on Thursdays or Tuesdays at the earliest, so I usually don't have to worry about them on my filming days unless I'm filming super late. But no, they were here today, and I have bushes outside my window that hadn't been trimmed down since I guess like last year around this time or something. I don't know how often they do it. So they're right outside my window. So when I was about to film, I couldn't, because I couldn't even hear something that I couldn't hear anything that I was listening to in my room. So I'm here now because they're done, and yeah, I'm rambling on about nothing important, so let's just get into this video. My TBR for this month is obviously going up a little later than I normally do it, just because my TBR for this month is going to be done a little differently. I am participating in the N.E.W.T.s readathon that's taking place throughout the entire month. So if you know absolutely nothing about this readathon, the way this one is set up, you have to read specific prompts in order for the different categories that you need to fulfill to get into a certain career. So because of that, I have to be really strict with my TBR, and I wanted to definitely make sure I, for the most part, had down what I wanted to read. So I wasn't trying to switch up and then, you know, I couldn't do it because I have to read things in a certain order. So I took the time last week to make sure I had that completely finalized, or finalized for the most part. I think I have my required TBR finalized, and then I'm also thinking about doing some bonus challenges just because I have a feeling that I will have extra time. So I'm just going to try to fit it all in. I basically fit in all of the books that I haven't been getting to over the past few months that I've been meaning to read. So it all makes sense. There are a few books on my TBR that do not fit into this readathon. So I do have a book for the Wicked Spirits book club. If you haven't already seen the announcement either on Twitter or in the live show that we had up yesterday, but that book does fit into one of the categories, so I figured I would just hold off on that until I get to that category. But I will also be trying to read The Right Swipe by Alicia Bry for the Dragons and Tea book club. The other book that I wanted to mention that I'm currently in the middle of, I started this during the reading rush, but that is The Kingdom by Jess Rothenberg. I don't know why I haven't finished this yet. Every time I pick it up, I'm really invested in what's going on with the story, but I'm still at that beginning stage, I think, where things are starting to be revealed, but it's not completely revealed yet. Like I said, I'm currently reading this one. I am only on page 104, so honestly I haven't read that much in this game. Like, I've only read about a third of this. I am really hoping that this week I will just sit down and read it. All right, so getting into it, if you haven't seen me talk about career stuff when I was doing the Owls Readathon and when I did the wrap up for that, I decided that I wanted to be a ministry worker working in the Department of Mysteries. And like I said at the beginning of this video, you have to read everything in order of the prompt. So it goes A, E, O, which is acceptable, exceeds expectations, and outstanding, I believe. So you can't just automatically skip to O. You have to read A, the A prompt, the E prompt, and then the O prompt. And then that's when you will have completed everything. For this specific career, I had to get an A, or an acceptable, in charms, potions, transfiguration, and defense against the dark arts. And I also needed to get at least 4 O's, which is outstanding, I believe, in your selected discipline. So you can pick 4 of the subjects and you had to get O in at least 4 of those. I decided to get my O's as well in astronomy, charms, muggle studies, and potions. And then I'm also having possible bonuses in herbology, the rest of transfiguration, divination, arithmetic, and history of magic. So let's get into the prompts and what I'm going to be reading for each. So starting with my first required class, I picked astronomy, and this is one of the classes that I'm going to be trying to get an O in. The first prompt, which is to get an acceptable in astronomy, is to read a book with moon on the cover or anywhere in the title. So I have two options for this. I have one that I'm going to be definitely sticking with, but I found a manga at my library, or one of the libraries that I use, and it actually works out for this, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be reading this one because mangas are really short, so I'm not planning on counting it for this challenge, but it would work. So it might just be an extra book that I have. But the first one is Moonblood. Don't know who the author is. I'll try to like get a cover and stick it up on the screen so you guys can see. Like I said, this is a manga. I believe it's like a paranormal manga about a guy who's a werewolf, and I really don't know too much about it. I just saw it. I was just like, that looks interesting. I'm going to check it out, see if I actually enjoy it. But the main book that I'm using for this specific challenge is Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. And as you could probably see, there is a giant pink moon in the background of this cover. It's also on the bottom of the back. So yes, moving on to the next prompt, which is to complete the E, still under astronomy, and this one is to read a book with the word night in the book title or series name. And I had a couple different options for this one as well, but I decided to take the shortest route possible and went with Midnight Secretary Volume 2 by Tomu Omi. Obviously the word night is in the title. Is part of another word, but I figured that would still count. And the final class for astronomy, which is to get an O, is to read a sci-fi book, and for that one I picked Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jake Kristoff. Moving on to the next class, which is charms. So to get an A in charms, I have to read a book that I think has a gorgeous cover, and for that one I decided to go with Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. To get an E in charms, I have to read a comic, manga, or graphic novel, and I think if you didn't want to do any of that, you could read a book that's under 200 pages. And for this one I decided to go with Witches Volume 1, and I did not write down the author's name for this one. And finally, to get an O in charms, I'm supposed to read a paperback book. I decided to go with The Bride Test by Helen Huang. Moving on to the next class, which was Defense Against the Dark Arts. In order to get an A in Defense Against the Dark Arts, I'm supposed to read a book that has black under the dust jacket, and for that one I'm going with On the Come Up by Angie Thomas, and pretty simple, it's black. Moving on to the next class, I decided to make part of my requirements. That class is Muggle Studies. So to receive an A, I have to read a cover that includes an actual photo element. And for this, I decided to go with Kingdom of Souls by Rena Barron. I will obviously have a picture up on the screen so you can see the cover model. That's an actual picture of her, even if they did add stuff in afterwards. To receive an E in this class, I have to read a book set in our real world, and I decided to go with Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbard. This one is coming out in a few months, so I still have some time to read this one and review it, but I'm going to get to it, so figure perfect timing. We're going to work that out. To receive an O in this class, I have to read a book written by a person of color. I have two options that I'm still deciding between. The first option, which is the book that I'll most likely end up counting for this challenge, or that I'll be using for this challenge, is Fumbled by Alexa Martin. My other option for this one is The Wedding Party by Jasmine Guillory. The next class that I have is Potions, and this is the last class that I'm trying to get an O in to complete the challenge, or to complete the requirement of getting at least 4 O's in my chosen areas. To receive an A in Potions, I have to read my friend's, or one of my friends' favorite book. I asked Lauren and Amanda, the two co-hosts that I host with the Wicked Spears book club. I just said that really weird, but my other two co-hosts for the book club, I asked both of them some of their favorite books, and after seeing some of the options, I decided to go with Bloodbound by Patricia Briggs, which is the second book in the Mercy Thompson series. To receive an E in Potions, I have to read a book with a cover in your Hogwarts house color. I'm a Ravenclaw, so the color is blue, and this is another one I have two different options for, and I'm still not sure which one I'm going to read. It just depends on what happens by the time I get to this prompt. So the first one that I have is The Proposal by Jasmine Guillory. The other option that I have is One Day in December by Josie Silver. And I decided to add this to a possibility because I had the audiobook on hold and it just came through recently. So I was just like, it's mainly blue on the cover, and I've been meaning to read this since I picked it up the end of last year. To receive an O in potions, I have to read a book that starts with a prologue. I'm sure some of these other books that I have start with a prologue, but I recently received this book and I saw it that it had a prologue right away, so I decided to go with The Good Little Girls by Charlotte Nicole Davis. And the last class slash prompt that I have to complete all of the requirements for my specific career is getting an A in Transfiguration, and that is to read a book with LGBTQA plus representation. I always mess that up every time I try to say it. So this is another one that I have a couple different options for. As of right now, my main option is The King of Bourbon Street by, I think it's N.E.W.T.s. Everything that I have talked about before this point are all requirements for my career. Now I'm going to get into the bonuses that I am possibly going to attempt to do. Most likely I will, because these all end up being the rest of the books on my TBR. So moving back into Transfiguration for bonuses, to receive an E in Transfiguration, I have to read a book that's not the first in a series. And for this one, I decided to go with Iron Kiss by Patricia Briggs. This is book 3 in the Mercy Thompson series. I already have the audiobook checked out from the library, so I'm already set to go on this one. And to receive an O in Transfiguration, I have to read a book over 500 pages. I decided to go with The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Moving on to Divination, to receive an A in this class, I have to read a white book. To receive an E in Divination, I have to read a short story collection. I think there was also another option for that, but I just took it off because I was just like, I'm gonna read a short story collection. This is another one that I have multiple options for, so I'm either gonna go with Heirs of Fate by Amara Luciano, and the other one that I have is Black Enough, which is edited by E.B. Zaboy, and there is a bunch of different authors that have short stories in here. And to receive an O in this class, I have to read the last book that I bought, and I put slash acquired. It said or got from the library, but I just put acquired because I have received a few books lately. So as of right now, my option is Midnight Secretary Volume 3 by Tomu Omi. Moving on to the next class, which these are still bonuses. I think I lost my mind, but it's okay. So next I have Herbology. To receive an A in this class, you have to listen to an audiobook. For this one, I decided to go with The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. I had an audiobook version of this. I have already finished this one. To receive an E in this class, I have to read a book between 350 and 390 pages. For this one, I decided to go with Spend the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. I don't remember exactly how many pages this was, but it definitely fell in that category. And to receive an O in Herbology, I'm supposed to read a book with a flower on the cover. And this is another one that also has two options. Honestly, knowing me, I'll probably just end up reading them both because it's manga and they're short, or they're shorter than a normal size novel. So first I have Takana and Hannah Volume 1 by Yuki Shiwasu, and this was my initial pick. The main character, I don't know if you could see, she has a flower on her headband, if that will focus, and then the number title up here is inside of a flower. At first I didn't see that, I just saw that and I was just like, you know what, that counts. And then the second option, which I just saw when I was going to pull this one off of my shelf, is Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun by Izumi Tsubaki. I know you might be looking at the cover and say, hey, there's no flowers on the cover. I took it off the shelf and I looked on the back and I was just like, oh, look at all those flowers on the cover. And actually, now that I'm looking at it, it's probably really hard to see, but There is like manga panels on the front cover, and the character has flowers around her face. Moving on to Arithmetic, which is the second to last bonus class I'm attempting. To receive an A, I'm supposed to read a book that ends on an even page number, and for that one I went with The Beautiful by N.E.W.T.s. Oh no, I think I might have messed up with this. So I think I saw 424, but there's an epilogue that's like a couple lines long and it's on 425. Oh, that sucks. Actually, instead of that, I think I might just go with The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. This book was already on my TBR. This was going to end up being an extra book, but I have an audiobook out for this already that's waiting on me, so I can just kind of swap this out for that. And then if I get a chance to get to The Beautiful this month, then I'll just count that as an extra book since I messed up. To receive an E in this class, I have to read a standalone, and for that one I'm going with Four Dead Queens by Astrid Schultz. And to receive an O in Arithmetic, I have to read a book that's longer than 350 pages. So I can either, I guess, use The Beautiful by N.E.W.T.s. Wasn't planning on using this, but if I don't get to use it, obviously, for the reading a book with an even that ends on an even page number, then I can always move it here. But my initial choice for this was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. And the final class that I'm using as a possible bonus, which I will most likely finish anyway, I can always swap things out if I don't end up finishing some of the other ones that I had beforehand. But anyway, this final class is History of Magic, and to receive an A in this class, I have to read a fantasy, and for this one I'm going with Warrior of the Wild by Trisha Levenseller. To receive an E, I have to read a book that includes a map, and for that one I'm going with We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal. Here is the map, so that worked. And finally, to receive an O in History of Magic, you're supposed to reread a favorite or read a classic. My option that I'm definitely going to be reading this month is Halfway to the Grave by Janine Frost. This will be a reread for me, and I mentioned this before, but this is the August pick for the Wicked Spirits book club. So if you guys didn't already know, this is the book we will be reading for August. We will be having a live show up in September over on Lauren's channel, so be looking out for that or information on that. I love this so much that when it was picked, or when there was a possibility that this was going to be picked, I decided to go ahead and buy myself a physical copy. I should have just bought the entire series because I love them and I want to own all the rest of them. With that book, that is everything that's on my August TBR. I think I may have lost my mind because can I read all of these books in a month? I think I can, because I feel like at least half of them I have audiobooks for, or I plan on getting audiobooks for them. So I think it is definitely a possibility, but we will see. Like I said, if you guys are interested in keeping track with me, you can either go add me on Goodreads, which the link is always linked down below among all of those other links that are always there in each description box, or you can check in with me halfway through the month. I will mention which challenges I have completed. Let me know what you're planning on reading in August, and yeah. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you would like to see more from me, make sure you subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye.